Very wonderful welcome to all of you. I've really looked forward to doing this this teaching today. It's about the 5 hindrances, and normally the 5 hindrances are something you use for meditation. It's not so much something which is, it is from the sutta, so it is from Buddhism, and it's normally used for meditation because it's used in conjunction with the sutta that is called the Satipatthana Sutta. And the Satipatthana is the sutta which every single coach on the planet is working from. It's a really good sutta about. I can link to it. It's quite long, but I can link to it underneath here when we're done, if you want to look into it. And it's very much about mindfulness. It's very much about being aware in the moment, what is happening. But for some reason, it has kind of been, the 5 hindrances have kind of been reduced to something that you only are aware of or using in meditation. It's great to use in meditation, but I think that the practical application of the 5 hindrances are quite important because they are so ego-driven, and it is a hindrance. A hindrance is something that is keeping you away from your goal. So if you want to become awake or you want to become aware in a situation, then these hindrances are keeping you away from that. And the reason why it's keeping you away is that they are ego-driven. So in the workshop today, we're going to look at the 5 hindrances. First, I'm going to talk about, in general, what is the idea of it. And then we're going into every single one of them. And then if you have any questions, either ask me while I'm talking or afterwards. There will be time to ask me afterwards. So normally we use the hindrances and reflect on them for meditation. And it is a pity because I think there's so much wisdom in becoming aware of the hindrances, and the hindrances are present all the time. They're, in my opinion, they're very, very applicable when you're working towards non-duality, when you're working towards awakening. Then they're very applicable, and you can use them to become aware of, to start with when you're meditating, but then expand so you also take them into your life in general. They are, because they are based in an ego reality, then they happen because of ignorance. And I would like just to talk a little bit about the word ignorance, because when you read the suttas, or if you read up on Buddhism or you look into it, then you're coming across the word ignorance a lot of times. And it's not meant as being, how we normally use the word ignorance, that you're, unaware or stupid or unskillful, or it's more about having a distorted view of reality. So in Buddhism, you're regarded ignorant if you, for example, have the delusion of a separate self. If you believe in the separate self, if you believe in the I, me, myself, and I, and you and everybody else out there, then you're regarded as ignorant, because you have a distorted view of reality. So it's not a bad word in that sense. Normally, when we call somebody ignorant when we're walking out and about, it's a very, very negative term, isn't it? But in Buddhism, it's more meant to give an indication of you being present with right view, or you having a distorted view of your reality. And the 5 hindrances, desire, ill will, laziness or sloth and torpor, restlessness and doubt, they're happening because you have a distorted view of reality. So if you have a view where you are identifying. It's a picture that I have here. You have you have a view of me. I am here, and this is me, and everybody is out there, and we're not connected in any way. And I am going to work to earn money, and we're striving, and we're craving, and we're trying a lot of different things during our life to get and to gain in our life. If that is your reality, then the 5 hindrances are very, very much alive in your life. And that's why I think it's so important to talk about the 5 hindrances. Also, when we just talk about non-duality, or we talk about non-self, or we're talking about becoming awake, it's very, very important to become aware of them, because they're there all the time. They're part of our lives all the time. When you have the distorted view of reality, then obviously you're going to suffer. And the solution to that suffering is always wisdom, because it's the reason for the issues in your life is because you have a distorted view of reality. And the only way to get out of that suffering that you're experiencing in your life, disappointment, regret, whatever is happening in your life, however you view yourself in your life right now, issues and problems that you have in your life right now, the only way to get out of that suffering is through wisdom. So the 5 hindrances are always present. And this is not something which is, normally people don't get super excited when I say that the 5 hindrances are always present, because we want to get to a point where we're not ego driven, where we're not in our ego, and it's one of the questions that I get the most times. It's how do I get away from being in my ego? How do I get away from being hooked in to a reality that I really, really don't enjoy? How do I get away from that? And I'm telling you that is never going to happen, and that the hindrances are there all the time. And I understand that it might be a little bit discouraging, but look at it this way: that something that right now might be very, very big and huge and apparent in your life, it's going to get more and more subtle. And I think it's important to realize that you can never get rid of them, because it also teaches you to embrace what is in your life right now, instead of having something which you don't want, and then you're doing everything you can to get away from that and into something else. There's no acceptance in that. There's no embracing or creating space in that. And wisdom is very much about creating unconditional acceptance to what is, and embracing you as who you are. Whenever we want to be something else, or do something else, or be in a different situation, or go somewhere, and we plan, then it's always with the ego foundation of I am not, I should be, that this what I am right now, what I have in my life right now, I don't want, I want something else. And in that, there's a lot of ignorance. There's a lot of distorted view of reality, because if you believe this to be true, then you're hooked into it. When you know that you're so much more, and your life is so much more than that, then you're beginning to open up to what reality actually is. And if you are not what you're identifying with, if that is not you, but it's just an illusion which you're identifying with, and you become aware of that, then you also see that there's nothing wrong with what is. Nothing needs to change, and nothing needs to happen, because it already is exactly like it's supposed to be. In my life, how I experienced the 5 hindrances, it's not, sometimes obviously I experience it very, it's very much there that I'm craving for something I really, really would like to happen, or something that is happening that is making me super sad or scared, or then I don't want it to happen, or not so much about the energy in it, but it's more those two, which are kind of like giving me a foundation in I am not, I should be. My life is not, it should be. So obviously I experience that sometimes, but the way that I experience it more is more subtle. It has kind of like dissolved into Vedana. And Vedana it's where you boil an emotion or an experience down to its component of being pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. And you don't add on to it. So it's not pleasant because, and it's not unpleasant because, it's just the experience right now of something being pleasant or something being unpleasant. And in that, there's no identifying with it, which means that when I experience something unpleasant, it's an emotion that is happening. And I know that the emotion will evaporate again, just like a scent that I experienced. I was in my garden earlier this morning, and it has just been raining. So there's that like lush scent of all the oils from the plants. And I know that the experience that I have of that's a pleasant Vedana. And it will evaporate again. It will, my nose will get used to the smell, and then I can't smell it anymore. And it's the same with an experience that you have in your life. If there's something which you don't want, then you can dissolve all the hooks and all the identification in it. You can dissolve that, you can unhook, and then just have the pure experience of an unpleasant experience. And then you know that it will evaporate, it will disappear again. One of the things that we are recommended to do when we read the Dharma is always never to react, but just to reflect on what is going on. And that's also why, the suggestion of you sleeping on it, if you have an issue and you feel that you're in a very reactive ego mode, where it's, it always goes one of two ways when it's about the ego, then, sleep on it. Another good advice also from the suttas, it's that whenever there's something that that feeling that there's something you want to remember, something you want to recall, and you can't recall it, you can't remember it, and it's like, it's on the tip of your tongue, you can't remember it. The Dharma is teaching us that it's because one of the hindrances are there. And that's a really good advice to it's no, I don't know if it's an advice, but it's really good to become aware of that. Whenever you have I really want to remember, then you're in the desire, you're hooked into the craving. There's something you want. What is right now is not the way you want it. You have an issue with accepting that you can't remember right now, and therefore you really want, what's his name? I can't remember that actor, I can't remember his name, and then we're hooked into the desire and the wanting, the grasping of something else than what is. So it's from the very big issues in our lives into the very, very subtle and small issues. But it's just important to be aware of that it's there all the time. It's just more or less prominent in your life, but they're there all the time. And there are two different sides of it, which makes it very difficult to work with the hindrances. The first one is the issue of justification. When you are in one of the hindrances, you're not aware of it. Normally, you're not aware of it. And your ego is doing everything it can to justify what is happening. Justify that, no, this is actually not one of the hindrances. Like you're sitting and meditating and you get super, super drowsy, that's sloth and torpor and laziness. And you go like, no, it's not because I'm lazy. I haven't slept well during the night. It's because I'm tired. So you, instead of taking the opportunity and realizing, yes, this is one of the hindrances, how can I be wise about this right now? Then we go into the justification mode where we just go like, well, I'm tired. It is how it is. And then we're not developing ourselves in any direction. We're just, justifying it how it is how it is. Or if somebody does something that really annoys you, then obviously that is ill will. And then you go like, yeah, but the way they spoke to me, that's not right. They shouldn't talk to me in that way. And then we start to justify that we have a feeling of ill will, instead of just not identify with it and just let it be as it is and experience what is happening and observe what is happening. And then just become wise, learn from it, instead of, because as soon as you start to justify, you don't learn anything. It has been put into a bracket of out of my control, can't do anything about it. It is how it is. They are really annoying. They're really, really annoying. It's not me. They are annoying. So you're completely detaching yourself from the insight that, yeah, they might be annoying, but we're not talking about them. We're talking about you. We're talking about the 5 hindrances in you. And right now in you, you feel annoyance. Another thing that I experienced while I was talking to someone that I wanted to talk about the 5 hindrances, and shortly, explaining about it, and was asked, but seriously, are we not allowed to enjoy, a nice meal? Are we not allowed to look forward to a nice meal and sitting and sharing food with friends? Are we not allowed to enjoy that and looking forward to that? And it's in the same bracket here that you're justifying your action instead of using the opportunity to learn from it. Of course you're allowed to enjoy your food. Of course you're allowed to be with friends and have a nice time. Of course you're allowed. It's not about that you are trying to divert the attention from you being in a hindrance into it not being that bad because it's just food with friends. It can't be an issue. It's not about it being an issue, it's about you identifying with it. It's about you being held back from an insight when you do that. And there's nothing wrong with a good meal. There's nothing wrong with being with friends and enjoying yourself and being happy. It's all about awareness. It's just about you becoming aware in the situation, being aware that right now you're justifying because there's something you don't want to look at. Like I said, that it's about ignorance. It's about that there's an issue right now that you are avoiding to look at, and it doesn't need to be something bad. It's just that right now you're in your ego, and you're as soon as you're in your ego, you are in a distance to the authentic. So there's nothing wrong with sitting and enjoying a meal with good friends and being happy about that. But be aware where your mind is. Where are you right now while you're sitting and enjoying? Are you grasping for it to keep being nice? Are you identifying with it and thinking that you're a better person because you have, the good friends and the meal, or what is really going on? Because you wouldn't need to justify if you didn't have any hooks into any kind of identification with it. So it's all about becoming aware of where you are identifying and how you are identifying. And the part about justifying yourself, it's really important to become aware of, because we're doing that a lot in our lives. We are We use it as explanations or justifications for decisions we make that are not skillful at all, where we act ignorant, where we act with the distorted view of reality, and we're not really doing anything to become present in it. This part about justification, we often, more often than not, we struggle becoming aware of it when it's about ourselves, but when it's about somebody else, then we realize and notice right away. So you will hear other people now after this talk here, after this workshop here, you will become aware when other people are justifying the hindrances, justifying their ego, justifying, but it can't be right. They are really annoying, or I am super tired, or it is not, I should consider it more, or but it's one of these 5 hindrances. Then it's easier to become aware when there's other people justifying about it. So the wisdom is about you acknowledging that they're present, you acknowledging that you're locked into the ego, and you right now, one of the hindrances are present. There's something which you're holding yourself back from, and you're using the justification of the hindrances to avoid getting to that point of awakening or awareness. The other part is that makes it very difficult is that the hindrances are feeding one another. And this is another one. The first sentence that I have here, it's one of the koans that I'm using a lot. A koan is a sentence. It's a sentence that when you read it, it doesn't make any sense. It's something which, when you read it, for example, one of the sentences, one of the koans that I like, it's all is well. And for a lot of people, that's super provoking. How dare you say all is well? We got like war in Ukraine. We just had a pandemic. How can you say all is well? And it's great to use. Koans are great to use because it demands that you reflect. You need to reflect. You need to find out how can you turn your view of your life for that koan to make sense. We have the starting point of the koan being true. So how can you change your life view into the koan making sense? And this is one of the koans that I often use, that the reason you don't feel any better is the cause to why you don't. And for a lot of people, when I say it, it's like, what? That doesn't make any sense at all. But it's actually, its foundation is in the hindrances, and it's in the fact that the hindrances are feeding one another. In the Dharma, it's called inappropriate attention, and it is when you have a feeling and you do everything you can to get out of the feeling. Normally, we do the opposite. For example, I have so often been asked the question if when somebody are restless, when when they have the monkey mind, the mind that goes up blah, 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 like that is restlessness. And then I'm very often asked, what can I do not to have the monkey mind, the restless mind? And I don't know if you can hear how funny that question is. You're doing too much, and now you're asking, what can I do more so my mind is not activated like that? It's completely makes no sense whatsoever. But that's because the hindrances are feeding one another, and they're feeding themselves. You also experience it with if you're annoyed at somebody, then if you cultivate that annoyance, then you start to get angry at them, and then it turns into hate, and then it turns into resentment. So it's like it's feeding itself, and that is making the hindrances even more difficult to work with. And one of the reasons actually why I think that in a lot of instances, people are not working with the hindrances like this, because it becomes a lot. It becomes very, very apparent which issues you have in your life. it becomes very, very apparent very, very quickly, and therefore also very, very threatening very, very quickly. But again, the wisdom which you pull out of the hat and you use in this, it's just to become aware, to have an acknowledgement of what is happening and acceptance, and then you will reach the understanding by itself. So the solution to all of the hindrances, it's always wisdom, since it's about the distorted view of reality. It's always wisdom. It can't be anything else. It's always what you need to do. I have written in bracket here the recommendation from the Satipatthana Sutta, which is used to how, as an antidote to the hindrances. And it's guarding the sense doors, which means that instead of being in your mind, then you can close your eyes and you can focus on hearing. It's one of the exercises that I really enjoy, and also always recommend people to do, where you sit and you close your eyes and then you focus on sounds around you, and then you catch where is the edge of the sound and where is the edge of me, and where does those two meet, and then you will feel how they intertwine, how they become one. And no matter what you're thinking or ruminating about in your mind, then for that period, you're using wisdom through the sense doors to get yourself out of your mind and into your sense of hearing. You can do that with a sense of sight as well, where you're looking at a beautiful view, you're looking at a flower, you're looking at a leaf, you're looking at a sunset or raindrop or whatever, looking at puppies, you're looking at something, and then you focus on what you're looking at. If it's a leaf or a sunset, then you sit and you look, and then you notice, what didn't I see just before? Because there's a difference in looking and seeing. And you can look at a sunset, yeah, that's a sunset, but most times we don't really see that. It's like reading. We don't really read, do we? We recognize the words. So you see a sunset and you go yeah, I'm looking at the sunset, it's there. And then in your mind, you know what a sunset looks like. So you're not really present and really, really seeing it. And that is one of the ways that you can enter through the sense doors, that you look at something and then you start to see what it really is, and then you're beginning to see things that you didn't notice before, or the colors that you didn't notice before. Even if you're just sitting and looking at a leaf from a plant, you will see different shades that you didn't notice before, shadows that you didn't notice before, texture that you didn't notice before. And the same with taste. You can do it the same with taste. If you're completely aggravated and annoyed about somebody, then take a bite of a strawberry or a lemon, and then go into the taste, where you have the taste in your mouth, and then feel how the taste is moving around in your mouth, how it's moving from your tongue to your palate, how the taste has kind of like a shape or color, and it changes all the time. So you focus on your senses instead of focus on your mind. The other one is noble friendships, and it's one of my favorite. I'm doing everything that I can with the groups that I have, with the sessions that I do. I'm doing very much putting an effort into creating the noble friendships, that people meet one another with an openness and an acceptance to whatever the other person is experiencing in their life. And the last one is suitable conversations. And I think I'm going to have a workshop at some point about speech, about talking. We're gonna get to it in a second, because it's also part of the hindrances. But having conversations that are like what we're talking about here, where it's something that is real and is present, if you want to meet people in that level and speak with people on that level, then ask them when you meet them, what is alive in your life right now? What is present in your life right now? And then it's not about what the neighbor said, or the weather or something. It's more profound than that. It's deeper than that. My take on it, and that's obviously why we're here today and talking about it today, is that that whenever you find yourself in one of the hindrances, wisdom is always the way, because the hindrances are there and present right now because you have a distorted view of reality, and you need your wisdom to realize what part of you is identifying with something and do not want to let go or relinquish the connection into it. So the way that I see the hindrances, it's with this picture here, that you can split them into, since all of them are connected with ego, then you can split them into three pairs. The first two are the pairs where it's about wanting things and not wanting things. And that has the foundation in the ego, I am not a should be mentalities. That's very much about the mentality of the ego. The ego is never, ever content. The ego always wants something different, something more, something else. It's never, ever, ever content. So whenever you are in a situation in your life where you become aware that you want something else, it can be you're sitting and meditating, your leg is asleep, and now you want to sit differently, then become aware that is a hindrance. That is a want. What is, you don't want, you want something else. Obviously, that is like a very, very small example. In other areas where it's like bigger is normally about, I mean, consumerism is tied into this, isn't it? That you have something and you want something else. And that want never stops. It never ever ends, because it's such a foundational part of the ego that I am not a should be. And there's always justification. There's always justification. You always justify, the ego always justify why it is like it is, and to see the world as it is. And the ego is never ever going to admit that it is justifying and that it's feeding itself. The two parts I just talked about, the ego is never going to admit that. It's always that, but there is something wrong with what is. I would like something else. You must understand that. And that's part of the ego. The other part is what I call the ego energy. And that is the energy that is tied into the want and into the avoidance. So it's either a restlessness, because you're going towards something. There's something you want or you don't want. There's the restlessness, the never ever content with, and the restlessness. It's a mind. It's a mind mood, or a mind state of mind, if you can say like that. It's whatever is happening in your mind that is not resting. It's like in the suttas, the restlessness is compared to that you have a bucket of water and the wind is coming over the water. So you're looking into the reflection of the water, and the water on the surface is never calm because the wind is going over the waters. And that is kind of like the feeling with the restlessness. That is one of the energies of the ego. The other one is the opposite, which is apathy, laziness, drowsiness, sloth and torpor. I mean, we never ever use those terms in our language anymore, do we? But that is like the other part of it, that there's like nothing happening. That you might know that there's an issue, but you don't do anything about it. It's just left. Nothing is happening about it. And remember, again, the ego will keep justifying why nothing is happening. It's my childhood, I can't do anything about it. And then it's just parked over there. It's part of my childhood, can't do anything about it. I was never supported, and then it's just parked over there, and then you don't do anything about it. So whenever you are in the hindrances, you are justifying why you don't do anything about it. And the ego goes like, great. I don't need to do anything about it. I've just justified why I don't do anything about it. And the last one about doubt, I call that the ego baseline, because that is the foundation of the ego. It's doubt. And doubt is something that it's such a massive experience, having doubt, and we have it all the time about so many things. And the only reason why we have these three is that, like you see on the picture here, there's the me, there's the identifying. We identify with each one of them. We can sit from now on and explain why it is like it is, and complain about it, and blame other people, and never ever, release the distorted view of reality that we have. And that's because we're tied into the ego, tied into the identifying, and we're living through the 5 hindrances, and nothing happens. So now I want to go through every single one of them. The first one, the way I'm going to do this is that I'm going to take first the part that we know from meditation, because the hindrances, as I said, is normally used in meditation. And desire and want from meditation, when you had such a lovely meditation, and you're just relaxed, and you're present, and you just feel content and happy, and everything is just wonderful. Then you want more. You want that next time you meditate, you want that too. That is in the meditation part. In life, it ranges from addiction, where you are completely blind to anything else but what you want, from what you desire, it's the only thing on your mind. And addiction, I also mean like being in love, or anything where you are distancing yourself from your awareness and into a thought of something else outside of you. So it ranges from addiction and then to enjoying, like I said, about enjoying a meal with friends, where you're just happy and content in life. But desire, it's also one of the quotes from the suttas, that desire is like a loan, that you always need to pay it back. And what is meant with that is that nothing lasts. Nothing stays enjoyable and wonderful. It's not part of life. Part of life is that everything is a wave. You inhale and you exhale. Your heart is expanding and contracting, and it's becoming daytime and nighttime, and everything is a wave. And you are happy and content, and you are miserable and sad, and it's part of it. And also another part of what is meant with the desires like a loan is that if you really, really enjoy, I don't know, cupcakes, then you have a cupcake and you really, really enjoy it, and it's wonderful. If you have another cupcake, at some point it starts to get too much with the cupcakes, and then it's not enjoyable anymore. So nothing lasts, and there's always need to pay it back, meant in the sense that it can't last. Nothing can last. Nothing will last. Everything has an end. And the problem with desire or enjoying, when we're attaching to it, because there's nothing wrong with enjoying a sunset or good friendship or appreciating. There's nothing wrong with it. But if you identify with it, if you get attached to it, then you're in trouble, because then you start to cling to whatever is enjoyable in your life, and then it will lead to suffering. When we look into the ego, then the ego has the tendency to greed. That it's what I talked about before with the foundation, I am not or should be, that, and it's tied into consumerism, that you have, but you want more. It's not enough what you have, you want more. And in general, the antidote to desire, it's contentment. It's being content with what you have. If we talk about desire in the sense of sexual desire, then there are so many recommendations in the suttas to how you deal with that. For example, if we talk about infidelity, if you're about to cheat on your spouse, or you're completely blinded by somebody that is like so beautiful and you feel so much attraction and desire, then there are a lot of recommendations. The first one is the one-pointedness. Start to look at specifically one thing, one part of the person that you're attracted to, and then instead of seeing it as a whole, because it's only created in your mind, it's not real. We're talking about, another human being. It's not real. Human beings are human beings, and there's so many disgusting things going on as well that you're closing your eyes to. I mean, start to think about the other person's digestion tract, or go with them to the toilet, or watch them vomit or something like that, and then very, very quickly the sexual desire or this desire that you feel, it's completely vanishing, because you're being snapped out of the illusion that you had of the other person being something special. So there are a lot of really funny suggestions to how, I think it's because we have to remember that all the suttas, they're written by man, they're written by people, and in the part of how the monks, they stay monks and stay celibate, there are a lot of funny suggestions to what you can do to not to have desire. I think that in real life, when we're not, that anal about it, but just looking at us being human beings, then looking into contentment instead of because the foundation of it is not about desire being wrong, or having sexual attraction being wrong. It's not about that. It's about that there's something in your life that you already have that you forget to be content about, and therefore you look into something that you don't have and project a lot of things that are unrealistic into the other person or into the other situation. And what you can do about it is become aware of contentment in your life. What are you content about in your life right now? And I'm not talking about your spouse or your children or anything outside of you. I'm talking about in you right now. What are you content with right now? Focus on the breath right now, because you haven't got the past and you haven't got the future. You even haven't got the now. If we really, really look into the now, it doesn't even exist either. So just being present with what is right now, finding contentment in what is right now. And then you will feel how that part of the wisdom in you is kind of like soothing the wants or the desire. And there's a really nice sentence: with stillness, simplicity, and contentment, I purify my mind. And that's super helpful. That's super helpful. So that was wants and desires. Then there's the opposite: ill will and agitation. And in meditation, the hindrance is obviously your leg is asleep, your back hurts, you have been sitting for a while now, and now you're getting, somewhere in your body hurts, you don't want to sit anymore, you need to pee, or you're thirsty, or something uncomfortable is happening. And And that is normally where we start talking about the hindrances in Buddhism. And I think it's a pity because, my goodness, the hindrances of ill will and agitation, it's so present in our life all the time. And this is the one that I can see now. I'm going to go over time just so you're aware, because this one is a big one. This is really a big one. Because when we talk about ill will and anger and agitation, the part about the hindrances feeding one another and feeding itself is so apparent when it comes to ill will and anger, that you might be annoyed about something that is happening, but if you react to that annoyance, you will activate and cultivate hate and anger in you. First anger, and then the anger, when you continue to cultivate that, and by cultivate, I mean acting out on it, then you will go into hate and you will go into resentment of the other person. And it has nothing to do with the other person. You have done that in you all by yourself. Nobody else was present. You did that all by yourself. And that is how powerful the hindrances are, and especially the hindrance about ill will and anger, that it's that powerful, that if you react to it, it will feed itself and it will become bigger. It will become bigger. In my teachings, I use what I call the 4 guidelines as kind of like a guideline to when you are deluding yourself with the hindrance of anger and ill will. And it's blaming, shaming, complaining, and explaining. Whenever you're blaming somebody else for whatever you're feeling right now, you are making yourself smaller because you say that somebody else can influence how you feel. So you can't blame anything on other people. It might also be that you wanted to take the train and the train got cancelled, and now you're blaming it on your frustration is being blamed on somebody else. Then you're taking an experience that you have in your life and you're putting it on somebody else. And it has always to do with your expectation. Your expectation, you had decided how you wanted thing to happen, and that thing did not happen like that. And then you get aggravated and angry about it, which has nothing to do with anybody else but your expectation. The issue wasn't your expectation. Complaining is about when somebody does something that you do not agree with. So you had an expectation about somebody else doing something else, and they didn't do how you wanted them to do. So it's all about control. You complaining about other people is about you being frustrated that you can't control other people. The shaming is it's a bit more toxic. It's where you make other people feel the frustration that you have in you. So you take something that you experience and put on other people so they experience with you, as if your pain becomes any less. And then the explaining, it's the justifying that we had about before. I'm going to make a video where I talk about the 4 guidelines and how it's quite extensive when you start to look into it. It's also why in my teaching in my groups that we have, I think is about a month where we talk about them and kind of like unravel how it's affecting our lives. But the problem with the 4 guidelines are meant for you to become aware of when you are in it, and so you can kind of pull yourself out of it. Act with wisdom, pull yourself up and being an observer of what is going on, instead of being a victim for yourself because you're the only one suffering in this. And then it's also about you becoming aware of your speech. That's another thing that I'm going to make a separate video about. And it's, again, in the suttas, it's very, very clear how we are supposed to speak to other people and to ourselves. Everything is not only about other people, it's always starts with yourself. So it's very much about how you speak with yourself as well. But your talk, be aware of when you are lying. Even though it's a little white lie, as we call it, it doesn't help, adding a color and a size to a lie. A lie is a lie. So becoming aware of when you're lying. Normally we say, yeah, but a little white lie is because we want to spare them for some feelings. No, it's not. No, it's not. You want to spare you, and that's why you're lying. And that is a part of the ill will, not being present. Another part of your speech is slander, or when you are creating disharmony, either between other people or between you and other people. So if you're not communicating with kindness and compassion and love and contentment with other people, and you're creating disharmony, then it's about you. It's about your hindrance in you, about your ego. You need to look at you, because you are the one talking. It's the same with being rude, or being impolite, or being abusive in your language towards other people, using profanities, using threatening words. Again, it has nothing to do with the other person. It's you who wants to control the other person, what the other person is doing and thinking, and you want to control it. It's all about your hindrances in your life, how you are keeping you away from an awakening and becoming aware. And then there's idle chatter and gossip. I mean, idle chatter, the people that just like talk, and they don't say anything. It's just a compilation of words that makes no coherent sense in any way. It's just, idle chatter. But it's also gossip. Gossip in many ways are also creating disharmony in you, partly because you are talking about somebody that's not present. You're talking about them behind their back. But also in the other person, you're creating, you're putting a stick in the wheel in the relationship that the other person have to the one that you're gossiping about. So gossip is super, super toxic, very, very toxic. I'm going to make a video where I talk about the speech precepts from Buddhism, where the Buddha is very, very clear about the different ways we talk and communicate that is saying so much about us and nothing about the other person. It's never about the other person. It's always about you. And it says so much about you, who you are as a person, how much you are holding you back with the hindrances in your life away from your awakening. And then there's a really good advice also in one of the suttas where the Buddha says that before you say something to somebody else, then you should ask yourself if these 4 things are present, and all of them need to be present. Is it kind? Is it true? Is it helpful? And is it now? I mean, is it now that you should say it? Is it the right time to say it right now? So if it's not kind, just be quiet. Don't say anything. And to the question, is it true? Well, you can always ask that, can you? Because the majority of the times, whatever you perceive as reality is not true. It's only true to you, which means that you need to be very, very careful with how you talk and what you say. Because if you're just talking about what is true to you, then it might not be relevant for the other person. It's relevant for you and your therapist, but it's not really relevant for the other person. And then helpful. If you're not supporting another person in moving, inwards, upwards, and forwards, then just be quiet. And the last one is very important. A lot of times when I have seen that, yes, it's kind, and yes, it's helpful, and yes, it's true, but it's not the right time. And then you're just quiet. Then you don't say anything. And the sentence for this is, with truthful communication, I purify my speech. And it's about the speech precepts. If you want to Google it and look into it, then it's about the speech precepts. When we talk about ill will and agitation and anger, the antidote to that is always metta. And metta is loving kindness. In Buddhism, loving kindness is like the foundation for everything. And there's a metta meditation where you take your time and you divide it into 5. And the first period, you send loving kindness to yourself, that you make sure that you view yourself with loving kindness. Then it's another person that you care about, somebody that's close to you in your life that you really love, that you're sending loving kindness to. And then it's a stranger. So it's somebody that you don't know. It might be somebody that you passed in the street today. It might be the bus driver. It might be, your neighbor's daughter that, you have heard is sick. You never met her. But then that is the person that you send loving kindness. And in the 4th state, it's a person that you have an issue with. It can be somebody from work. It can be a neighbor that has an issue with you and your hedge. It can be like anybody that you have an issue with, but it can also be somebody that has an issue with you. And then you send loving kindness to that person. And in the 5th state, it's to all of us. Every living being is being sent loving kindness. And that is the antidote for the hindrance of ill will and agitation. Whenever you have a feeling, any of the feelings that I've talked about now, where it's about ill will, whether it's about blaming, shaming, complaining, explaining, the lies, rude, abusive language, idle chatter, gossip, all of the things I just talked about now, whenever you catch yourself in that feeling, start with giving metta to yourself. I love me, I appreciate me. I am here for me. I'm here for me to reach awareness, becoming aware, becoming awake. That's why I'm here. I'm going to breathe now, be present with me right now, not being in the past, not being in the future, but just being right here with me right now, and sending loving kindness to yourself. Start by doing that. And if you still feel anger or agitation or ill will or annoyance about somebody else, then send it to them. Open up for loving kindness towards them. The one that you are so annoyed at, send them loving kindness. Wish them well. Wish them a good health. Wish them a bright future. Wish them a good night's sleep and a happy, healthy life. So the antidote to ill will and agitation is metta. Okay, that was the I am not, I should be part of the ego. Now we're going into the energy of the ego. And the first one, when we talk about a dullness of the mind or sloth, torpor, or laziness, when we talk about meditation, then obviously it's about people falling asleep. You're sitting and meditating and then you fall asleep. Then you have the laziness, and then the recommendations in the suttas is open your eyes, or you can do walking meditation, or you can use your senses, become aware of your senses, where you breathe, or you hum, or you do something with your senses, focus on a sound or something where you wake yourself up. So that's like the solution to being drowsy in your meditation. But in life, it's more or less the same. But in life, when we talk about dullness of the mind, then it's more about inaction. That there's, you need to do something, but you can't seem to do it. There's an inaction. You might know what to do and how to do it, but it's just not happening. It's not happening. You feel paralyzed in what to do. it's that feeling is also tied into doubt, which is kind of like the foundation for all the ego decisions that we make in our lives. Then doubt is like the foundation of it. And again, when you feel doubt, or when you don't know, when you know what to do, but you don't know how to do it, or you don't know what to do and you just feel complete resignation, then you can use what I just talked about with awareness in your senses, becoming aware of what is right now, and move your mind away from the I should do that now, or I need to find a solution. And first of all, find calm in you. That's the first thing you do, is finding the calm in you. Again, the antidote is wisdom. Finding out what part of you is identifying with finding a solution which you can't find. What part of you is so overactive in what is happening in you right now that you are completely ending up in a corner with apathy, and are paralyzed, don't know what to do. Finding out what part of you is identifying with that. It is still tied into the I am not a should be. So instead of just being present with what is, you're tied into I should find a solution, I should do better, I should know better, I should, and all that. And instead of just being present with what is. A thing to be aware of when we talk about dullness of the mind is that the opposite is never a solution. It's just adding to the problem. So if you don't know what to do and then you just do something, then it's actually taking you from dullness into restlessness. And then you haven't done anything else, you're still in the issue. They just have a different name now. So it's just adding to the problem. And a solution, which what you can do is finding the unconditional acceptance in you, that whatever is happening right now, it's okay. What is as it is. Accept that right now you are paralyzed, and if you can't accept that right now you're paralyzed, you don't know what to do, then at least accept that you can't accept it. It's the creating space, because when you are in the dullness, or when you feel paralyzed or overwhelmed or in your life, it's because there are too many conflicting directions in you, and you need to find you. And you do that with breathing. Just sit and breathe, finding space in you for the situation that is super frustrating, that you don't know how to get out of, but at least you can find space in you for being frustrated about it, and creating space to it. So even though you can't accept it, then you can accept that you can't accept it. And then again, you can always use your awareness to your senses in that. Put an ice cube in your mouth, feel it, how it feels, the texture of it, the coldness. Where does the coldness go from being cold to being warm when it's on your tongue? Do it with a sense of your sense of smell, your sense of hearing. So go into the senses and connect with that, instead of being in your mind and being paralyzed in your mind. And then it's the opposite, the restlessness. In meditation, it's what we call monkey mind. And the monkey mind is when the mind goes like jumping from tree to tree, it's just like all over the place. And obviously in meditation, when we talk about the monkey mind, what is happening, then the recommendation is always mindfulness of breathing. So you get into your breathing and you have a focus on your breathing, and then your mind is focused on that. You can also count your exhales or count your inhales. So say a mantra that you repeat over and over, so the mind have something to focus on. That is how we use the knowledge of the hindrance in meditation. In life, then restlessness is an agitation of mind, and restlessness feeds restlessness. It's what I said earlier, that I've heard so many people ask me the question, oh, my mind, I feel so restless, my mind's all over the place, what can I do? So it's like, I'm doing all this, what can I do more to solve the issue of me doing too much? You know, it's so bizarre. It's so bizarre, but it is how it is. Restlessness feeds restlessness. And I think one of the problems that we have in our culture is obviously that we, in our culture, we are, how can I say it? It's action is in very high regard. Doing is in very high regard. You know, setting a goal and going for it, and not taking anyone into account, and just, you know, just do it. It's in such a high regard in our society. And the problem is that it's keeping us in a huge distance to us, to an awareness and an awakeness in the moment, because we're constantly diverting our mind into something else, into something outside of us. When you feel restless, instead of diverting your mind even further, then my take on it is to focus on contentment. Again, what are you content with right now? When you feel the restlessness and you have the monkey mind in meditation or in your life in general, what can you focus on in your life right now that is exactly as it should be? It could be the next breath is exactly like it should be. The smell of this flower is exactly like it should be. The texture of your hand, if you caress your hand, it's exactly like it should be. So what do you have in your life right now? What about you can you bring focus on right now that is exactly like it should be? Where can you find contentment in what is right now? Another part of the restlessness, it's to remember it's about remorse. And restlessness is an agitation of the mind, and remorse, it's also an agitation of the mind. It's the cruelest form of ego being. That's remorse. It's you take something that happened in the past, and then you ruminate about how you should have done differently, how things should have been differently. And you can't change it because life has happened, you know, life has moved on. You're not there anymore. So keep taking something that happened in the past and pulling it into the future and ruminating about how it should have been different. The only thing you're doing is just feeding the restlessness of your mind, the agitation of your mind, instead of really understanding that memories, whatever you remember happened, whatever you think happened in your past, then there was something happening. You had an experience. You had some assumptions about the experience, about what happened, and that created a specific take on the experience that you had. And that gave an outcome that you then had repeated as a truth in your mind. And over time, that has manifested itself. And that is what we call a memory. So whatever happened in the past, if you did something super unskillful that you really, really regret, you wish you hadn't done it, well, you didn't. You did it, you know, you did it. The only thing that is keeping you in the suffering is you keeping ruminating and thinking about it, having the agitation and the restlessness of the mind about it. So the delusion of your past, of whatever you did that wasn't skillful, the delusion of it is happening on a lot of different levels. And that's why it's becoming such a profound truth in us. And the problem with it is that we, as soon as we start to have feelings about something, when we keep cultivating them, they become emotions. And when something becomes an emotion, then we start to have the neurochemical pattern with it as well. That means that we are releasing neurochemicals, hormones, and we are releasing biochemicals, which are shaping our personality, which means that all on your own accord, you have created an issue and in your life that has now become your personality. And it's something which you have done all on your own. You could have done it on a desert island. Nobody else needed to be present because you have that restlessness of your mind. The mantra which you can say is, with stillness, simplicity, and contentment, I purify my mind. So it's we're back to finding contentment in your life. And the last one, it's about doubt. And doubt is the baseline for the ego. It's the only thing that makes the ego so powerful in your life. It's doubt. It's the foundation of the I am not, I should be. So it's in meditation, when we talk about doubt, it's the question, am I doing it right? Is this the right way I should do it? Should I do it differently? Is there something that's better? The constant seeking has a foundation in doubt. In our life, then doubt is a mood of the mind. It's like I said, the foundation for the ego. It's a mood of the mind, and it's directly connected with trust. You only have doubt because you don't trust. So all of you out there that are seeking and trying to find different ways to become awake and different ways to understand non-duality, the seeking that you have has a foundation in doubt and lack of trust. And the issue with doubt is that because it's ego driven, then it's tied into the I am not, I should be, which means that it's tied into you will never ever get it. You will never ever be content. No matter what you have doubts about, something, a speech you're going to do, or an interview you're going to, or a date you're going on, or whatever, you might have a lot of doubt about yourself in it. If everything goes well, then it doesn't matter, because you're going to find something else to be doubtful about, to have doubts about, because it's the foundation of the ego. The ego is never, ever content, ever, ever. It can't be content. It's not part of the ego. So it turns from feelings into emotions, and it ends up shaping our personality. Because as soon as something goes from a feeling into an emotion, you have the what do you call it? You have the neurochemical picture that is going along with the emotion, and that is creating your personality on a chemical level. So it's also a feeling like hopelessness. This would never ever work for me. I can never ever do that. It's one of the things that I really, really enjoy about reading the suttas, about Buddhism, about reading the Dhamma. It is that it's repeated over and over and over again, that enlightenment and becoming awake, it's also for you. It is possible. I mean, the Buddha could do it, so you can do it. What is the difference? And I really enjoy that, because it's taking all the doubt that you can have in yourself and going like, no, I can't do that. I'm not there yet. It's not for me. I can't do that. And it's taking all that and packing it away and going like, of course you can. Of course you can. Why should you be so special that you can't? Why? What is so unique about you that you can't come awake? Of course you can. So every time you hear yourself say, no, I can't do that, or I couldn't do that, or that would never work for me. I really would like to meditate more, but that would never work for me. That is doubt. It's not you, it's ego. It's not you at all. You're not present at all. You're limiting yourself with identifying into something that has a foundation in doubt. And that limitation is not you. It's just ego trying to tell you who you are, what you can do and what you can't do. You can always ask yourself, whenever you're limiting yourself in any way, you can always ask yourself, how do you know? How do you know I can't do it? How can you be absolutely sure that I can't do it? How do you know? Because the ego is limiting you in a lot of different ways and trying to keep you away from you, blasting through the glass ceiling and just becoming you. Because then the ego ceases to exist. So obviously the ego has a lot on a lot invested in you not becoming awake. So those are like the very big parts of doubt, but doubt also exists on a very subtle plane. The common denominator is a physical sensation of unease. So you might have a sense of you that something is not right, and you can't figure out which of the hindrances it is. That there's something present in you and you can't find out what it is. Then it's probably doubt. There's something in you that wants to go in a direction, but you are not sure about it. So you hold yourself back. That's doubt. Whenever we have that physical sensation of unease, it's normally doubt. There's something in you that is holding you back from where you're supposed to go, what you're supposed to do. And what you really feel that you really, really want to do. You're like every part of all your cells, every part of your being is like singing towards, doing this, and you're holding yourself back. And that's because of doubt. It's also, I have written down some words. It's uncertainty, hesitation, indecision, confusion, insecurity, and mistrust. And those are the more subtle planes of doubt, where we just give them another name, and then we pretend that it's not about doubt, but it is. But it's also hidden into an anxiety, depression, and fear. If you boil it down, if you really, really pick it apart, you can see that an anxiety, depression, and fear, it's about doubt. That there's a foundation of doubt, and there's a little hint of doubt about you in it. So doubt is the most common occurring ego mood that we have, and it's keeping us in a distance to where we're supposed to be, to who you're supposed to be, to you flourishing, to you becoming awake. And it's keeping you tied into the I am, not a should be mentality. And that makes doubt, like I showed you on the picture previously, where it's kind of like the baseline for the ego. That's doubt. And yeah, that was it. That was the five hindrances. To sum it up, it's about the shift from non-identifying that needs to happen. It's catching yourself whenever you have a feeling, and then pulling yourself up into the authentic, into the observing, where you're observing what is actually going on, where you're observing what is actually happening. And no matter what you find, it's okay. And no matter how many times you are standing in the same situation, it's okay. It's okay. It's completely fine. Becoming aware is the path for you to become awake. So it's completely fine. Another thing I would like to say that I have said a lot of times now, it's about contentment. Find contentment. Whatever is happening in your life at the moment, find contentment in what is, not outside of you or in the future or something else, but right now, find contentment in you. And then you can start from the very small place of being aware of the 5 hindrances when you meditate, and then you can expand and use the hindrances into your life in all aspects. So that was what I had to say. I want to hear if anybody has any questions. Let me just check on if somebody has written to me on YouTube. I'm getting a question here. How do I handle interaction with people when my own thoughts and behavior patterns, and without the stickiness of emotions, it feels like a curiosity on where I'm identified with my attachment on an emotional level. My mind is learning to surrender into resistance in subtle ways without trying, in a sense. Just wondering if you have anything you can share about this. Yeah, I'm not sure I understand your question completely. Let me see if the way that I understand it. You're asking how when you have you're in an interaction with another person, and you get different feelings, you get different emotions with what is going on, and you feel how you all of a sudden become very invested in those emotions, and you want them to either to go away or to for you not to be aware of. I can recommend you, if you look at all the videos that I have on my channel, I talk a lot about how to become aware when you're in the ego, because what is happening is you're identifying with the feeling that you experience. So if somebody's angry at you and you get sad, or you get upset, or you get angry, then you're identifying partly with what they say, but you're also identifying with the feeling that you feel. And the whole point of understanding this is that there's nothing to identify with. It's something that has happened in you on your own accord. It has nothing to do with the other person or the situation you're in. It's something which you have activated in you. So, and that's how I understand when you say that it kind of becomes sticky, because that is exactly what is happening. You know, when a cloud, it's a sunny day and the cloud is passing, and you see the cloud creating a shadow on the lawn, and when the cloud moves, there's not a shadow anymore. That's how interaction with other people actually is. That is just, you know, they say something, they make you sad, that's it, and then it passes again. So obviously, because we are living in a life where we are interacting with other people, then you can never ever get away from having a feeling or sensation if somebody's saying something to you. But it doesn't need to be a feeling or sensation of sadness or anger. It could also be a feeling or sensation of curiosity to what is really going on here. This clearly has nothing to do with me. What is really going on? And because we are tied into the physical body, we get those feelings and sensations, but they're not truth. And that is the most important thing to become aware of, that whatever feeling or sensation you get, it's chemistry. It feels real because it's chemistry, but it's just chemistry happening. So if we look at, I just go back to this picture here. If we look at that one, at this picture here, then for the question that you just asked, you're asking, how can I get away from having an emotion or a feeling? It's about you realizing which part of you is tied into the hindrances, because the ego is tied into the hindrances, and the ego is where the hindrances are happening. When you're pulling yourself into the authentic and you're just observing what is happening, then you can also observe the hindrances happening. without them being a part of you. But it's just, yeah, emotions passing, feelings passing. It's not anything big or profound or anything. It's just happening and passing, like when you're smelling a rose and then you don't smell it anymore. You hear a dog bark and then it doesn't bark anymore, and then it's just passing. It's the same with thoughts that we have that are creating feelings. The thoughts will pass and the feelings will as well. Yeah, I hope that was an answer you could use. And then you're saying healthy boundaries. If I could talk about healthy boundaries, of course I can talk about it. Oh, I can talk a full day about healthy boundaries. In my teaching, boundaries is actually one of the care areas, one of the 5 care areas that I work with. The first one is the sense of self, where you know how you are in the world. There is no self. So it's about how you perceive the world. What is your ethics? What is the way that you perceive the world? It's about the self-care, what you choose to do to show yourself kindness and compassion, and how you show kindness and compassion to others. And then it's boundaries. Boundaries is a big one. It's a really, really big one, because we know now that there are 2 levels of boundaries. First of all, we have the boundary from you to you. The next boundary is from you to others. And we have found out about the first boundaries is about from you to you. And when we talk about healthy boundaries, it's always that one that is the issue. For example, we have found out about it because of people that has been tortured, that one thing is when somebody is transgressing into your boundary, and torturing you or doing something towards you that you don't want them to do, then it's between the boundary between you and them. It's that boundary that has been transgressed. They have gone over that boundary. It's very easy to in therapy work with that type of boundaries and the issues about that. The problem is when you have been told that you wanted to, that what, for example, what we had in the during the Second World War in the KZ concentration camps, when they were told to dig ditches and graves for their friends, but they would be fed if they did. If they didn't do it, they wouldn't be fed. Therefore, they had an incentive to doing it. Otherwise, they would die of hunger. So therefore, they did it. That is ruining the inner boundary between you and you. So you, all of us, and all children that has experienced rape or something and been told that they wanted to, but you initiated or you wanted to, or they felt that it was the only connection they had with an adult, then it's the inner boundary that has been moved. And that is where it starts to get really, really difficult, because you need to create a completely new set of perceiving you, of how you perceive you, how you what you regard as a truth. So if you experience, going back to the question that you asked me, if you experience that other people are pushing your boundary, then the issue is not them pushing your boundary. They're just them. They're just doing what they're doing. The issue is how you go about it, how you feel about it. So if somebody's pushing a boundary and you said no, and then they keep pushing and you say yes, then the issue is no longer between them and you, it's between you and you. It's the inner boundary, because you have said no and you didn't want it, but you persuaded yourself to do it anyway. And that part of the boundary and rebuilding that boundary is the most complicated one. But I have a lot of videos on my channel that I can recommend you to look at. And it's all about becoming aware of the difference between the ego that has the foundation in I am not a should be, and being in the authentic that has the foundation in observing. and seeing what is really going on. Yeah, I hope that answered your question. So healthy boundaries is a big one. Yeah. Any other questions? It's a huge topic, the 5 hindrances, but I hope that we went half an hour over time. I hope it's fine. I hope that you have enjoyed it. I hope that you can use it. And I hope that, yeah, that you can use it for reflection and finding out in your life where you are. Yeah, and how you can support yourself. So that was it for today. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it. And oh yeah, a practical thing I want to say. I'm going away from having a Patreon where you sign into, and instead I'm going to have everything on the YouTube channel. So on the YouTube channel, there's a join button. And in that, I'm going to create a community where it's with people that want to talk about this. And I'm going to create meditations and koans. Like I said in the beginning, a koan is where there's a sentence. I'm going to create pictures for koans that you can take a screenshot of and have on your phone and use it either for reflection or meditation. And it's also where next time when we get to August, then I'm going to live stream for the members in the members area, and then I don't have to flick between Zoom and YouTube. So check out the community if you want to join there. And also then for you, if you ask me questions, I'm getting so many questions every single day, and I can't answer all of them, and I need to kind of like sort out in what questions I'm answering first, and then it obviously will be from the members that I'm answering their questions first. And if you have a super interesting question, then I'm going to make a video with an answer to you. But again, check it out on the YouTube channel. It's much easier to have everything collected in one place instead of having it on lots of different platforms. It's so confusing. So yeah, check it out. Thank you very much for today. I hope you have enjoyed it, and I wish you and yours all the best. Bye.